It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. Now here's your host, Geno Jones.
Showtime. What's happening, everybody? I hope you had a great weekend. It is a Monday. It is a brand new day. It is a brand new week. It's a new episode of the Geno Jones Show live. I come to you live Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central Time, 3:30 p.m. on the West Coast. And let's see here, about 6, 12. It's about 3-ish, close to 4 in the morning, somewhere around 3 o'clock in Afghanistan. The last United States military plane is left. We'll get back into that in more detail. So please like, share, and subscribe to the Geno Jones channel. Subscribe, share, and like the Geno Jones Show, and subscribe to the Geno Jones channel. If you'd like to be a sponsor, if you'd like to advertise, I'd love to have you as a sponsor or advertising. And if you're looking for the ultimate pitch man or brand ambassador to help build your brand, your business, help move and sell your goods, your products, your services, I'm the king, not the king. No, not the king. I'm the king of pitch man. So holler at me. My guest coming up in a minute is returning to the show again, one of the top public health and infectious disease experts in America, Dr. Damon Arnold. So talk about the status of COVID-19, and unfortunately, now so many more young teenagers and children coming down with COVID. First of all, let's pray for the victims and the survivors of Hurricane Ida that ripped through southeast Louisiana, or the southeast Louisiana area on Sunday, including New Orleans. New Orleans, as bad as it was, as a matter of fact, as of a couple hours ago, the entire city of New Orleans was without power. But the eye of the storm and the parts of Louisiana that was hit the worst were near, just south of New Orleans. Grand Island is like a barrier island right there on the coast of Louisiana. Some other locations you hear about Port Lafourche and Houma. So you've probably heard about that, seen the video. A lot of rescue missions, people going out on different type of boats and rescuing people who did not leave. That's what when they tell you ahead of time, this is going to be a catastrophic storm, leave. But some people did not leave and had to basically climb up on their roofs to save their lives so they didn't drown in their own homes. So we want to pray for the victims and the survivors of Hurricane Ida. For those who believe in the power of prayer, if you have family, friends, let's make sure we do all we can to support them, even if it's just something as small as maybe donating some money, whatever it is, to the American Red Cross. So, because therefore, for the grace of God, it may not be a hurricane where you live. It could be a tornado. It could be a flood. It could be lightning striking your home. It could be in the wintertime. We hit, in of course, the Midwest and the northern cities. We have severe winters, blizzards, people dying of frostbite. It could be anything. So the last United States military plane has left Afghanistan after 20 years and nearly 2,500, nearly 2,500 American members of the military and countless numbers, hundreds of thousands of people from Afghanistan who have died in this 20-year war. Finally, it is finally over. The last U.S. military planes left about 3 hours ago. So rest in peace, power and paradise to those nearly, I think the exact number is 2,447 or 67, nearly 2,500 men and women, including the 13 Marines, one person from the Army, one from the Navy, of 13 American service members who tragically died less than a week ago in the bombing, suicide bombing attack right there near the airport in Kabul. So Hamid Karzai Airport. I want to lift him up in prayer also. But thank God this war, which is a whole nother conversation. You've heard me talking about it with retired Master Sergeant Roy Gray, our official military expert. 20 years. We didn't go there to be there 20 years. We went there to find bin Laden and to go after the people who attacked us on September 11th, even though the 19 hijackers had Saudi passports from Saudi Arabia. So, but bin Laden had a camp set up in Afghanistan, so we went over there to get revenge against the people who attacked us on September 11th. Bin Laden was trapped in a mountain range, Tora Bora mountain range in Afghanistan back November, December 2001. We knew he was there. He was trapped. We had the weaponry. We could have taken him out. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. We did not. And then it kind of segued from, okay, we're going after the people who attacked us on 9/11 to let's spread our Western American form of democracy on a country that we didn't understand their culture, a very tribal, and I don't mean that in a condescending way. This is a nation that consists of different tribes and tribal leaders. That is their form of what we would call government. That is their culture. There have been fights between different tribes, tribal leaders, and factions in that part of the country for 2,000 years. Afghanistan wasn't even Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq. All of those were basically like one large country over 100 years ago, the Ottoman Empire, in case you didn't know that. And then America, about 100 years ago, kind of came in and, hey, let's carve it up and we give this one name Afghanistan, we're gonna name this country Iraq, and this country Iran. Whole different conversation for a different day. But just one, a lot of times we don't know history. As much access as we have to knowledge and resources and facts, man, we as Americans, we do a really piss poor job about really understanding and knowing the true history of this country. I digress. I got some good news. I want to congratulate Naya DaCosta. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing her name right. Or is it Nia, like Nia Long. Nia DaCosta, all right? I got a thing about mispronouncing names. Nia DaCosta, the first black woman to direct a movie, Candyman, this brand new Candyman movie, that was #1 at the box office. Opening week, #1 in the entire country. The first time that a black woman, yes, more black woman magic, so congratulations to Miss Nia DaCosta, making history. So now, I need to talk about COVID-19. Oh, well, I want to get someone back on the show who is an expert, like I said earlier. He is one of the top public health and infectious disease experts here in America. He was the former public health director for the state of Illinois. He is returning to the Geno Jones Show. There he is on camera, ladies and gentlemen. I call him the Black Dr. Fauci, but I'm thinking I'm doing him a disservice. I should call Dr. Fauci the white or the Jewish Dr. Damon Arnold, right there on camera. Dr. Arnold, hello.
Yes, how are you doing, Geno?
I'm good. Let me just kind of off script a little bit, but you served in the military. You did 2 tours, if I believe, in Iraq, correct?
Yeah, correct.
And,
yes.
And you were at Desert Storm.
Actually, I was involved with that because I was in the military for 26 years, so I did multiple things. Hurricane Katrina response and Rita. So 23 countries and
Wow.
and multiple tours across the world. So yeah.
Well, I knew that you served, and I just want to salute you and all the men and women, all the branches of the military at this moment when we finally ended a war, a 20, as far as I'm concerned, just my take. I'm not trying to draw you into this, but my take, my opinion, my show, a 20-year, too damn long war that we were in. Nearly 2,500 American servicemen, women, not to mention the hundreds of thousands of Afghans. But I just want to salute you, your sacrifice, your service. I want to salute all the men and women, especially who served in that theater, the correct term I do believe, that theater or over in Afghanistan. And in general, I want to take this time to once again salute all the men and women that have ever served, currently serving active duty in any branch of the military, because really like only 1% of the American population either has a family member in the military. So there's only a handful of people that are really making the sacrifice. And the rest of us, 99%, can kind of sit back and act like we are General Patton, and all of a sudden that we are like these G.I. Joe warriors, keyboard warriors. I call them Call of Duty warriors. The closest they ever come to serving in the military is playing that damn video game Call of Duty. But all of a sudden, all of these experts who could barely spell military have something to say and really think that they know better than the current military leaders that we have, civilian military leaders from the commander-in-chief on down to those who are actively making decisions in the field. So I just wanted to take this time to salute you and all the other men and women who've had the courage and the guts. Because I'd never worn a uniform, not even for a second, not even as a Halloween costume for play. So I have mad respect and reverence for any man or woman that has ever served or that's actively serving. So that was just a little editorial comment I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I had the chance to speak to one of my heroes, General Honore, yesterday.
Oh, I love that dude, man.
On the call again this evening. But the servicemen and women who served and died, I want to make this comment. Is that, someone asked me one time, why are you going overseas, to serve in the military? And, is it about the oil over there? What is it about? And my response to them was, I raised my hand to defend the Constitution of this United States. It is your moral responsibility, your duty as a citizen to vote, to go out and to get involved in public debates and discussion, and to sit down and actually figure out what the moral compass of this country is. If you're not participating in that, then you're a useless American. You're not wearing a uniform and you're not fulfilling the duty of a citizen. So don't ask me about why I went over there. Ask yourself why you weren't involved in stopping me from going over there, shedding the blood of men and women if it wasn't necessary because you didn't participate in democracy.
Dr.
So
Arnold.
It's a call to people to do what they're supposed to do. And so the goal for our families now that are for those 13 service members who have passed. We also have 18 other service members who are hospitalized, taken to Langstuhl, Germany.
Thank you for mentioning
that are still fighting, and we don't know what their medical condition is right now. And hopefully they will make it through that and recover. But the thing that happened over there was that they actually brought a taste that went into people's mouths. And that taste was the taste of freedom, of being not oppressed for your religious beliefs, of not being oppressed because you're a woman, of not being oppressed because you have a different view of life than those people who are part of these organizations like the Taliban and terrorist organizations that oppress people, chop off heads and arms. And, as a result, those people are now hanging on to our airplanes, trying to escape from the country. They are handing babies over barbed wire to bring them here. So don't take it lightly what you have in your hands. We have problems in this country. We need to resolve the problems we have in this country. But make no mistake, you are not living in a communist country where if you make a mistake, they can cut your hand off or your head.
Dr. Arnold, no, go ahead, finish. No, I love it. Mm-hmm.
So be very lucky and be very understanding that even when we start going into the conversation that Geno is going to, lead in a second about vaccines, you have the opportunity to get vaccinated, whereas in other countries, they don't. They have no option and they're dying because of this disease and would change and trade places with you in a second for where you are And so don't take lightly what the government is giving you. You don't care about you complain about the government when the highways aren't ordering or the street lights go out, right? But you take it for granted that they're on every day. You take it for granted that those roads are open so you can freely go from state to state without a passport, without a visa, and without being checked by a terrorist group.
Listen, Dr. Arnold, I'm dropping two mics for you. I didn't know that because at the beginning, it was on my heart. I just really wanted to salute the men and women in the military, and then knowing your background, I wanted to acknowledge you personally and publicly, and you're representing, not officially, but for me, you represent, what's best about us, men and women who were willing to make the sacrifice, and those who, young people. I think out of the 13 service members that were killed, I think I heard like 10 of them were like 20.
Yes.
These were just kids, babies. I mean,
babies when 9/11 happened. Yes.
My youngest is 19. They had their whole life ahead of them. But listen, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me, for speaking from the heart and sharing that. I haven't known you too long, but you are very, laid back. I feel calmer and smarter when you're like on the show. But I saw a little flash that I had never seen before, and they're like, don't let the smooth taste fool you now. You just saw a side of Dr. Arnold. He was in the military, all right? So you might see that other side, but I appreciate the passion and the truth that you spoke with, and just the flash of, I'm characterizing what it appeared to me on the outside, and anger, frustration, just passion. Let me just use, I think for me that's the better word, because I don't want to characterize what I saw and what the viewers saw, but I loved it because you wore the uniform. You've been in danger. You've been shot at. Like these folks sitting around on the video game playing Call of Duty. No, I don't care how realistic this video. It's different. And Dr. Arnold can tell you when your ass is being shot at, and you could lose your life like that, and you 10,000 miles away. So it takes a lot of courage. So you have, as far as I'm concerned, you and any man or woman that's either served or currently serving, you totally have the credibility, the gravitas to speak on this, because you walked in a pair of shoes that the majority of us Americans, we haven't walked in, or even have family members that have walked in those shoes. So, but I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing that and sharing that passion, because people, may not listen to me like, okay, this is Geno, but I think coming from you, someone who's made that sacrifice, you did it for over 2 decades. I hope that it resonates and people listen to what you said, because I've heard this term, freedom is not free. And there are people like you that have paid the price and currently are paying the price. And unfortunately, we know 13 people who were just beginning their life, 20 years old, made the ultimate sacrifice.
I grew up in Brooklyn and Bed-Stuy, and then I hear these terms like Chirac and all that.
Yeah,
they don't know what the heck they're talking about. I lived in Chicago for over 30 years, almost 40 years now. And I'm telling you, this is a cakewalk here next to the kinds of things that were happening over there. And so I lived in both. Those people who want to, contend it or contest that statement, go to Iraq and stay there for a while, and then come back and tell me what you think. But if you haven't lived in both, don't even get on the platform to talk to me.
I love it, Dr. Arnold. I did not know that we were going. I didn't know that we were going to even have. We didn't even pivot yet, because this was the beginning of the conversation. But I am so glad that you shared those feelings, because, like I said, you have you made the sacrifice, and you had a very dangerous job. And to do it for 2 decades, that says a lot about your courage, your character, and like you said, a lot of folks talk it, about the hood and Chirac and tough neighborhoods. You grew up, like you said, in Brooklyn. It's like, no, the hood in America is nothing compared to. They don't even. it's beyond the hood. Like you said, when you go to Iraq or Afghanistan, poverty and crime is on a whole different level that I don't think people can even wrap their brain around.
Yeah, they don't have Krispy Kremes on the corner.
Right, no Popeyes. You can't get no Popeyes chicken sandwich. None of that, okay? None of that. You'll be lucky to get some food and not get shot at. But I digress. So let me segue. But thank you for sharing that. I think it was so important, and I'm sure a lot of viewers received it, and I'm sure men and women who are watching who served in the military or have family that's actively appreciate that, because I don't think that we could thank you and the men and women who have served and the ones who are serving now and their families. I don't think we could ever thank you guys enough, because like I said, we really take it for granted. As bad as we got it, and we have our own form of domestic terrorists. We saw that on January 6th. But like I said, it's not like you walk out your house and there's a checkpoint with people with guns, show me your papers so you can go to school. It's a whole different animal. So let's not take for granted the freedoms that men and women like Dr. Arnold sacrificed, and in a lot of cases made the ultimate sacrifice. So I could stand in front of this camera and clown around and have a conversation and say what I want to say and not pay the ultimate price for it. So I digress. Let's talk about COVID, Dr. Arnold. I tell you what, because the reason I wanted to bring you on, because I have been seeing something and I've been afraid of it, and there have been people in positions of power that have been making decisions, and I've ranted about it. I've done many commentaries about it, that are making decisions about protecting children as parents and as public figures, as politicians. We have one job. If we screw up everything else, the one job, and having served in the military, I know you'll appreciate this. The one job that we have is to protect especially our children. As a parent, that's my first job. If I can't protect my daughter, I can't do anything else. I can't love her. I can't make sure she gets a great education. I can't nurture her. I can't give her wisdom and guidance and direction if I can't protect her. And as a public figure, politicians and public figures, you have been in that position, Director of Public Health. You take an oath to protect the public. So why would you make decisions like mandates that would ban or basically writing and issuing executive orders to ban any mask mandate in schools is ludicrous. And now here in South Carolina, as a matter of fact, a couple counties here in my area, in the Charleston area, now all of a sudden schools are going back to virtual learning because there have been outbreaks of COVID-19 in classrooms. We had one school where like 3 or 4, I think it was 3 or 4 teachers, 3 or 4 people total had died like in a week's period from the same school. It came down with COVID. School started here about 2 weeks ago. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I wanted to just let you take this conversation, or just any direction, commentary, just advice in terms of, I don't even know how we get out of this, but it's one thing when you got grown folks. Listen, if you want to go ahead and take some medicine that gets rid of worms in horses or cattle, if you rather do that than take a life-saving 3, you have a choice of 3 vaccines that's been tested on hundreds of millions of people, if not close to 1 billion people worldwide. Hundreds of millions of people in this country have taken one of 3 vaccines. All the data, all the research shows recently 99% of the people that's dying here have been unvaccinated. Now, Dr. Arnold, he'll update the numbers. I think at least somewhere in the high 90s, 95% of the people that's hospitalized have not gotten vaccinated. But then, well, I heard so-and-so, I heard Reverend Jesse Jackson, he got the COVID shot and he still got it. Yeah, but just imagine, had he not got it, he may not even be here. So it's one
Sure.
thing if you are a grown ass fool, then fine. Go ahead and take this ivermectin and take this medicine that deworms horses and cows. That's on you. But as an adult and as a parent, you don't have the option to make decisions or to put the lives of innocent children who did not ask to come here at risk. So having said that, I'm going to see if you can talk me off the ledge. And Dr. Arnold, it's just why are we putting children's lives at risk? Grown ass, ignorant ass, do it. Oh, I got my freedom and liberty. Well, you're not free to spread a virus that could kill me or my family. You don't have that freedom. Now you got a freedom to go on and not take the vaccine and go in your house, stay in your house. And if you get sick, don't call Dr. Arnold and want to be rushed to that. No, you good. Let your natural immune system work that out for you. But you don't have the right to put these children, anybody's lives, but especially children's lives. So you got the
Geno, everything you're saying is absolutely spot on. Worldwide, we have actually given out or administered over 5 billion doses of vaccine. 5 billion in less than a year. And we also, worldwide, we've had about 4.5 million deaths.
Wow.
4.5 million people have died. And in this country, almost about 650,000 people have died. So one of the things I always think about is like, if I look back at, when President Biden and Vice President Harris was standing at the reflection pool with their spouses, and they were looking in Washington, D.C., and they had the luminaries lit and the Washington Monument was lit.
Yeah.
At that point, there were about 610,000 deaths. And I thought about it and I said, what would have happened if we had the vaccine back in 2019 in December instead of 2020? We would have had no deaths, basically. Wow. We wouldn't even be talking about this subject right now if everyone had gotten vaccinated.
And can you just I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to throw this in there because I should have said it leading into you. Here in America, we've got 3 vaccines that are free. Free. You don't even have to have any money. These vaccines are free. So I just wanted to try to really drive this point home. We don't have excuses. The vaccines are free.
That's right. And, and what people ought to be thinking about, is not so much putting a vaccine into your body, but what they're putting in the mouths every day to eat. Those things that are leading to heart attacks, strokes, kidney failure, all the dialysis centers are lighting up, and no one worries about reading that label. They don't eat fruits and vegetables. They eat, high fructose corn syrup and processed meats and who knows what those chemicals are in there. You read that label, I'd be much more afraid of that than I would if a vaccine was in there. So, one of the things that we have to, this is one of my favorite sayings that I tell all my students is, remember, science never asked for you to believe in it, but it is incredibly unforgiving if you don't.
I love that. When you first said that on the show, I loved it. I had you repeat it because I love it. And for all those, I said this last week, Dr. Arnold, you probably didn't get a chance to check that episode. But because, I've been in like barbershops and guys, hey man, I don't know what's in that Pfizer vaccine. It was so-and-so and so-and-so or that Moderna. I'm like, okay, so you don't know what's in the Pfizer vaccine, but you don't know what's in that Pfizer blue pill that you're taking and popping like it's children's vitamins, like it's candy. You popping them, you calling your doctor, yo, doc, I got company coming over. I'm gonna have a party. Can you hook me up? Can I get about 5 or 10 of them blue pills? Can you write a brother a prescription? So you don't know what's in that blue pill that Pfizer made. You don't give a damn. You're not even asking.
You know it's in the Cheetos bag.
Right. You're not even asking. You just ready for some. You want to be ready for some action and rise to the occasion. So you like, hey, look, man, just hook me up. It may not even say Pfizer. It could be It could be a vitamin they paint blue, but you don't know what's in that. So you trust Pfizer to go ahead to help you with your erectile dysfunction, or you just want to perform at the maximum level, but you don't trust Pfizer to go ahead and give you a vaccine that can save your life. So I just find that I find it, and people were cracking up in the barbershop. It was like, I wasn't trying to be funny. I do stand up, but I didn't write a joke. To me, it's like, so, you've been popping this blue pill for a while, and I had never heard, well, I ain't taking this pill. I don't know. I swear to God, maybe you have, Dr. Arnold. I never.
Oh, this is the thing. It's like, on July 26, 2021, the CDC put a report out about hospitalizations, getting to the point you were asking, and the thing about it is that at that point in time, 163 million people in this country were fully vaccinated, about 1/3. And what they found is that there were some breakthrough cases of the COVID-19, but what they found is that if you were fully vaccinated, less than 0.004% of those people had a breakthrough case, and that led to hospitalization.
Wow.
So if you did get COVID and you were fully vaccinated, that means there's a 99.996% chance you would not be hospitalized.
Wow.
Okay? And the people who died from the thing was 0.001%.
Wow.
Of fully vaccinated people died from a breakthrough case. That means that 99.999% of the people who died were people who were unvaccinated.
Now, let me ask you, Dr. Arnold, has there ever been any other? Because from what I heard, like when we get a flu vaccine every year, I never heard them say that, this flu vaccine is like 99% effective from keeping you getting the flu or dying. And I don't know what the efficacy rate is. You probably know, but is there any vaccine that we've developed that has had this high level of what I guess the medical term is efficacy rate, or that works, that is that effective against keeping you alive?
Yes. So the ones, so if you look at the flu vaccine, you're talking about a 46%,
wow,
effectiveness. But even if you do get the flu, it minimizes the severity of your symptoms. That's why it's important to get the flu vaccination every year, because they change what the components are in it every year to make sure that you're keeping up with what's out there, what's circulating. But in this country, about 46,000 people die every year. Anywhere from 46,000 to 60,000 people die of the flu. And so that's why it's so important to get that. And that still is not a small number, right? You don't want to be in that number.
No.
And so when you look at the flu vaccinations, that's about 46, somewhere in that area. But when you look at measles vaccinations, it's like 97% effective.
Okay.
So the measles vaccination is closer to the area of what we're talking about with these vaccinations against COVID-19, the virus that causes COVID-19. So the thing that people really need to know, though, is that if you don't want to get vaccinated, then you better start getting yourself ready for a couple of eye openers that came out from the Mayo Clinic. What they found is that people who've had COVID-19, they found lasting damage to their heart muscle. They found small blood vessels in the heart that were filled with blood clots. So the blood couldn't get through and the cells in the heart died. This is myocardial involvement, the muscle that pumps that blood through your heart, your body. Your heart starts to beat in your 5th week of life in utero, when you're in embryo. And it doesn't stop until you die. And then you're affecting the major organ that is pumping blood to keep you alive through your body. If you have high blood pressure, if you have a history of coronary artery disease, and if you have a history of arrhythmias in your heart, they are saying that this thing actually can make those conditions worse potentially, And also, these can happen in people who have no underlying medical conditions to start with.
Wow.
So that's the thing about the heart. The lungs, they're finding fibrotic lung tissue where people can't breathe. They're finding people have long-term scarring of the lungs because of the Delta variant. There's 1,000 times more particles than the Alpha variant, the UK variant we heard about earlier. So this virus, this Delta variant, is actually variants, because there are at least 15 forms we know of, the subtypes, and they are devastating. They can actually overrun your body's immune system and cause more tissue damage than even the earlier variant. That's why they're so telling people to get fully vaccinated. Now, if you get fully vaccinated, what we're finding is that these vaccines are holding up against the Alpha variant, the Delta variant, the Beta variant, the original Wuhan strain. So these vaccines are very, very effective with keeping you out of the hospital, keeping you off of a ventilator. And they're finding also that this affects the brain as well from Mayo Clinic. They're finding it's related, it can lead to strokes, seizures. Guillain-Barré syndrome is an ascending motor paralysis that goes from your feet up into your diaphragm. That's why some people have to be put on ventilators. And it's at a much higher rate than the rare occurrence of someone having it where they get vaccinated. So you're actually protecting yourself against Guillain-Barré to some degree by getting vaccinated. And then also Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease have been linked to it as well.
Couple questions off the top of my head. What do you know about this Lambda variant, and is there any data in terms of if the vaccines that are out now do they have any effectiveness against this Lambda, or is there any other variant that is pretty resistant to the vaccines based on the data that you've seen and read?
Yeah, so far it looks like the vaccines are holding up against all of the variants. So if you're fully vaccinated, part of the reason why they're saying, maybe go and get a third dose, right, is because what they're seeing is that the antibody numbers, so the proteins that will, that bind to this virus in the body, and it's sort of, I bring my model, but this is like a tennis ball, and I put some push pins in here, but the virus looks similar to this.
Okay.
So what the antibodies do is that they actually come in and they'll clip themselves onto this, one of these proteins, a spike protein on the surface of the virus, and then your body can remove it and get it out of your system, so it doesn't cause disease. So that's why we have these proteins. So what they are saying is that with this, if we start looking at how effective is this vaccine so far, what is it doing to prevent us from getting sick? They're finding the antibody levels, these proteins that we produce that, grab onto the virus, that these levels start to go down over time. They start to decline.
Okay.
And so, but they're finding if you have higher numbers of these antibodies, it's more protective. It makes it more effective against you getting this virus. And so higher antibody levels also are required to protect against the Delta, because remember I said 1,000 times more viral particles that are invading your body. It's like being overwhelmed by an army. So this booster, what they're calling a booster, is really not a booster. It's a supplemental vaccination to complete your series, your initial series. And so what they find is that this increases this antibody level tenfold in your body, 10 times more than you had before. But a lot of the studies are now showing maybe 30 times, 40 times as much as they thought.
Wow.
So that your body is really protected against this virus. So all the data right now is supporting the use of the virus, the extra dose, to fight against this virus.
So
of the vaccine.
So antibodies. So give us a quick, simple medical lesson that would be easy enough for a fifth grader to understand. So do I understand? So we have our immune system. We have immune cells. So
hmm
antibodies, is that something that our body, that the immune cells release, like proteins? And I think I tried to
hmm
kind of figure that out. How close am I to being right, or am I totally wrong on that? Is that how it works?
Oh, yeah, yeah, right. Yeah. And I'll tell you that the five different types of white blood cells, basophils, eosinophils, neutrophils, you don't have to remember this is granulocytes. And then the agranulocytes is B cells and T cells, right? Those are the lymphocytes. And then we have monocytes and macrophages. And the T helper cells, there are, six different types of those. Cytotoxic amplifier suppressor helper, mixed lymphocyte, delayed hypersensitivity. The one that you want to be concerned about is both the T cells and the B cells. The B cells are the ones that produce these antibodies. So here's a
Ah,
good analogy for you. Um, Everyone has seen Star Wars, right?
yeah,
So think about that mothership. This the mothership for the Star Wars.
right.
And what does it do? It opens these doors, and all of these drones start flying out, right?
Gotcha.
These attack ships, and these attack ships go in and start shooting these invaders that are out there. And so this is what the antibodies are. They are the mothership or the cell, the immune cell produces these drone-like things, these antibodies that are released that go out to find these invaders. And then they fight these invaders in your body. And that's the virus. So we are born with a certain amount of immunity. And that's why pregnant women should really get vaccinated
Okay.
because when a child is born, it has no immune system. Its immune system is very, very early on, and it's trying to deal with this new world that it's just been thrown into. It hasn't existed outside of its mother's body
Good point.
that's been protecting it. So the mother makes these proteins, and these antibodies are given to the baby. It's called passive immunity because the baby gets those antibodies that stay in its blood and protect it against bacteria and viruses and fungal infections and all the stuff that's out there that can just can harm it. And so when the mother gets vaccinated against COVID-19, she actually passes those antibodies on to her child to protect it. And as I was mentioning before, heart, lung, brain, kidney involvement is occurring.
Yes. Wow.
So we don't know what's going to be the long-term consequence of a newborn coming in, being unprotected and getting
COVID. Oh my
COVID-19.
God. Yeah. Oh my God. So on the vaccines, two things on the third or as the media is calling it, the booster. When would you recommend? Let's just say, if I was your doctor, when would you recommend that I go get it, or who would you recommend get a booster now? Of course, they should talk to their doctor, but if you would just, hypothetically, what would you recommend? And two, if once you get a booster, let's say if maybe you've had some damage, you were talking about how the virus could do some damage to the heart or maybe to kidneys or brain. Well, that third vaccination, can it reverse some of that? Some of that problem? Is it because is it the virus may settle in some parts of the brain or heart or kidneys, and will a booster, in theory, kind of help reverse that, or do we know that yet or not?
Yeah, we really don't know whether it's any kind of reversal process. And we're finding that people with a long hauler syndrome, there's some papers that's coming out talking about people with the long hauler syndrome for more than a year. When they with the loss of taste and smell, or having some cardiac or lung involvement. So that story is not out there yet.
Okay.
I go with science directly. We have to really look at the studies, and people have to use a scientific method to come to conclusions. Unlike the people you were talking about, the armchair quarterbacks who know everything about military science and know everything about, I know about that green drink,
Right. They
So
they
anyway,
dropped out of high school and all of a sudden went straight from I'm a high school dropout, but oh, by the way, I went to med school too. It's like, okay, wait a minute,
right,
you're a doctor
right.
now, okay.
Yes, you got to be careful about that. But then the thing is that when people actually do get this vaccination, the third vaccination, it boosts your antibody levels, which theoretically could protect you against getting the COVID-19. And what you want to do is suppress this virus's ability to invade your body and to have your immune system overreact. That's what our immune system does.
Okay.
So, the incubation period, 2 to 5 days, they're about 7 days is when you have the height of your viral load, when you really produce a lot of viral particles. And about 10 days is when you have this cytokine storm. So imagine if you had that spaceship we were talking about, and it just, you had these invaders coming in, and then this spaceship just goes berserk and just starts shooting out all kinds of drones and starships and everything else to try to fight everything off. That's how our immune system works, and it can cause that congestion in the lungs. That's why people are put on ventilators, because their immune system is overreacting and causing fluid to come to the lungs. Just like if you had a cut or an injury, you hit your knee, it swells. Okay. That's what's happening in the lung tissue.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
And so the only way to get oxygen into you is to put it under higher pressure, right? Partial pressure. And that's why you get placed on a ventilator. So this is the thing that you're trying to avoid. So the vaccine can help keep you out of the hospital and keep you off of that ventilator. Now, people, look at that and say, well, yeah, that's my health. Yeah, you can die. But what happens if you live and you have all these medical bills coming in and you have intergenerational wealth that's lost because now you have to pay all these medical bills. You may or may not be able to go back to work, and maybe not the same capacity you were at before. And, my wife was talking about this thing where she was walking on the track and she met one of her friends, and her friend actually was a triathlete. So she is really, swimming, biking, running. I mean, into everything athletics, right? And had a vegetarian diet. And she said, "How are you doing?" She said, "Well, I wish I was doing better." She said, "Why? What's wrong? What's going on?" She said, "Well, about 6 months ago, they told me and they offered me the vaccine." And I said to myself, well, I don't need that because I'm totally healthy. I'm a triathlete. I'm eating right. And I just don't know about that vaccine. About a month and a half later, she was placed on a ventilator.
Oh, my God.
She was on there for 4 weeks. When she got off, the doctors told her she had pretty much like irreversible lung scarring. Remember, they had at least 7 that I'm aware of lung transplants in one of the hospitals, Northwestern in Chicago. Double lung transplants because the people's lungs had so much damage. So she said, at this point, she said, that was so stupid. What a mistake. And at this point, I wish that I had taken that vaccine. She says, too late now. But I'm praying that I can make it walking around this track once. Wow. Walking. As a triathlete.
Dr. Arnold, what can we do to protect our children, especially they're living in cities or towns, suburbs, communities, where you've got adults that have made these just irresponsible and reckless, should be criminal, political decisions in terms of banning the wearing of masks in schools and classes, and they've taken down plexiglass and don't want kids to wear masks on buses and don't want the adults to wear masks. What would you do to protect your child if you had a school-age child in that situation? I recommend that we do.
First of all, I would vote those morons out of office. That's the first thing I do. And
what can we do right now? If there's not an election going, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'll help you. But what can we do right now if it's 2021? So some of these folks won't come up for election until 2022 or maybe 2024.
Right.
So, but that's a great idea. Let's put a pin in that. No. Let's put a pin in that. Absolutely, we're gonna make sure that we do that. But for right now, if we can't vote them out, then what can we do?
What we do is that we put, as an adult, you remember we were talking about the freedoms that we have, and how we defend the Constitution, the military, all those people. It's so that you have the right to do what you think is best and protects you. The first duty of the government is to protect its citizens. That's if not the only duty of federal government and state government and local government, is to protect the citizens, right? So that's the first thing. So if they are irresponsible and are not doing that for you, you have to put the mandate in yourself and mandate for yourself and your family. We are going to wear a mask, no matter what the hell someone says. Come and try to pull my mask off.
Okay.
We need to put into effect the mandates that will protect our children. First thing is that, going down to the age of 12, they are able to get vaccinated. Vaccinate them fully. First thing, before they get into a school environment.
Okay.
As I said, we don't know what this Delta variant will do to people's long-term health. Protect your children. The ones who are less than 12, we're hoping this vaccine is approved soon and gets out there for pediatric use. They're working on the dosage now.
Okay.
They've already shown that in studies that they've been using that is actually highly effective, even more so effective in children because their immune systems are able to respond better. They're as we get older, our immunity starts to wane.
Yes.
That's why people who are 60 and older are having, especially are the ones who are in need of having that third dose.
Right.
To really boost their immune systems. Now, when the kids go to school, making sure they wash their hands, they follow the same precautions that they had before. If they're doing virtual, great. If they're really pushed and forced to go into the school environment, they need to be vaccinated. And we should not be just thinking about why I wear a mask. So I told you all this stuff about I got fully vaccinated, and why do I wear a mask? It is in part for myself, but it's a very small chance that I get hospitalized or be placed on a ventilator or die, right, from this virus. But I can spread potentially this virus to other people.
Yes. And
I don't want to go next to my neighbor who has a child with cancer, that their child ends up dying in in a hospital because I was so stupid and irresponsible that I gave them the virus that they transmitted to their child. And also your teachers, if you have teachers you love, if they're taking care of your kids and giving them a good education, why are you going to be subjecting them to children that could potentially be carrying the virus to spread to them?
That's an excellent point. And if you have a child, if you have a situation where your child is one of the few, if any, people in a classroom not wearing a mask, would you just tell your child, listen, you put on a mask, and if you have any problems, have the principal and the teacher call me, or I'll go up to the school and tell them. Is that what when you say?
Yes.
Basically, what was it? The phrase you used to kind of mandate that we protect our children. So
yes.
Is that what that looks like? Listen, if you have a child and the governor's released an executive order saying, no, we're banning any mask mandate. Damn that, this is my child. Here, put on this mask, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to go to school with you from the principal on superintendent. My child is wearing a mask since the rest of you fools, adults, are not wearing a mask. And if you have a problem, then come see me. If you have to go that far, is that what you mean when you say you really protect our children at any cost?
Yeah, I mean, if the governor said, I'm going to mandate that you can't fix that big hole in that bridge, how many people want to drive over it? Do you still want to follow it? And your car goes down to the ocean. I tell my feeling is that you have to take it into your own hands. Take destiny in your own hands. Destiny is said before, it's not so much a matter of chance as it is a matter of choice. You control your destiny, and the choice should be to protect your kids in the fullest way you can, following the CDC guidelines, the mandates that your health departments are giving, and people who have knowledge in this area, infectious diseases, and making sure that you cover and protect your children to the best of ability that you can. And when the vaccine becomes available for those under 12, vaccinate. You do it for measles, mumps, rubella. We do it for flu. We do it for tetanus and diphtheria. We do, and those things protected me. Now, I was in the military, as mentioned before. When I was going overseas for my tours, they said, in the Army, you don't get the choice. They said, roll your sleeves up.
Right. I
We were
know.
like, okay.
I know. I've talked to so many
This
people
arm
in the
too, and that
military.
arm.
Yes, I've heard that from so many people I know, family
Yeah.
members and other people in the military. They said, man, we get so many vaccines, and they never tell us what one is. Like you said, it's, hey, look, roll your sleeves up. You got to get these vaccines. It's no questioning, and I don't know what's in it. You're gonna be in this man's military. You're gonna roll your sleeve up, or you can take your ass home, basically.
Yeah, and they give you a yellow vaccination card that said, "Lose this, you get them again. You see them again." we're holding that card like a dear life. No
So
one can touch your card.
so bottom line for the parents, listen, protect your children at any cost. All right, if they're around in a school where nobody else is wearing masks, Dr. Arnold, you say make sure that your child has a mask and maybe hand sanitizers or anything else that you would tell a parent who's in that situation with a child in a school with virtually no one, children or adults wearing masks.
Yeah, just tell them that, tell them if they want to get some extra credit, put that mask on, go, physically distance from the teacher and say, I wore this mask for you.
I like that. And that's a good way to put it because that's true. We're thinking about other people. We got to keep each other healthy. Before I let you get out of here, is anything else? Just kind of recap because there's a lot of question about the additional or booster. When would you recommend? Who would you recommend get it first? Outside of course, talk to your doctor. But there's a lot of people are already gotten like that third shot from Pfizer or Moderna and waiting on some data from Johnson and Johnson. So what's the best guidance and direction you could share with the viewers on that?
Okay, so when it's going to be open to the general public is September 20th. So that's not too far from now, about another 21 days.
Right.
That's the first group, but that's going to be for the people who were first vaccinated. So that's going to be healthcare workers. They're going to be looking at people in long-term care facilities, skilled nursing facilities, those types of things, long-term care. Now, the next group, which was almost about a month later, started in January, February timeframe. So what you want to do is after your second dose, you want to look at your card and wherever your second dose was, you want to add 8 months to that. That's what their recommendation is currently.
So is it 8 months? Because I think I heard President Biden said they looked at some data instead of 8 months, maybe moving it closer to 5. Yeah, okay, 5 or 6, yes.
Yeah, and so what they're doing is that they're sort of playing around the time frame, but what we have to realize is that there's still some controversy around it a bit because overseas what they're saying is that people haven't even gotten one dose and they want it.
Yeah.
And what they're saying is that the immunity starts to wane, but they're not that convinced that this is leaving you really that far open, to being hospitalized or being so. We have to follow the science. If they change the dates and the time frame, then we have to follow what they say. They're going to have to make a major mass vaccination effort, to meet this requirement. But the initial was eight months. If President Biden's saying, well, we can maybe do 6 months, whatever they're saying, follow it. Just get that third dose, and look at your vaccination card, the second dose.
Because I'm sure I'm sure you've already heard or people called you because I know because a lot of, especially here in the Carolinas, you can walk in a lot of pharmacies. You can walk in and get that additional shot. I know people that have already done it, got the Pfizer or Moderna.
Yes, or Moderna.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so for those people who have already done that, it's really no chance. It's not that it can do any harm. It's just that they have a number they kind of prefer to kind of wait for that window or wait for some more data to come back.
Yeah, and they're trying to make sure that the people who really are at highest risk, those people who are 60 years old and older, the healthcare workers, the frontline workers, emergency personnel, that there's enough vaccine to make sure that they get their doses as well. So it's a time thing, but get your third dose. That's
there you go.
The bottom line.
Right. Right. So if some of y'all look at your calendar and it's like, oops, I thought it was 8 months. It's only been 4 months or 5 months. That's on you. But bottom line, Dr. Arnold said, get that third shot. First of all, some of you all need to get the first one, then get the second
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Too many of you all haven't got the first one yet. So that's what we really need to talk to.
Yeah. And those people who've had one dose and didn't get their second, then come back, they're getting hospitalized right now.
Yes,
And
that's a good point. Thank you for
so,
bringing it up. Yeah.
so they're adding to the almost like the unvaccinated group. They're still not having as bad a course overall, but they're still vulnerable. So, getting that third dose is really critical. They were, first targeting people with organ and tissue transplantation, people who had cancer, people who are on chemotherapy for that, end-stage renal disease. There's about 11 times more likely that you get hospitalized with end-stage renal disease, the dialysis centers and all that.
Right.
So it's just making sure that you follow the science, listen to what the public health officials are saying, and when it's time, get vaccinated. It can prevent you from having a world of hurt. And we didn't really get into it. Maybe in a future show, I'll talk about the psychological ramifications, the stress, what this does to your cardiovascular system, and to, just to your overall health that people are going through.
Wow. If I knew that, that could have been our topic for today, because there's so much that I think we can all feel that. I mean, the stress and anxiety it can create, and people's blood pressure can go up, or they just feel the anxiety, tension, just get nervous or wake up, having crazy dreams, your heart beating fast like you've been out in a fight or racing. And so I'm sure the mental aspect, can contribute to that, or the virus could be contributing to that also. Am I right or wrong with that?
Oh, sure. So it's situational awareness. The stress of having to take care of loved ones, worrying about, do I get the COVID-19 virus? What happens if my parents get it? What happens if my coworkers get it? What happens if my spouse gets it and my children? That's a lot of stress, and we're seeing people dying, and there's almost no one I know of that hasn't known someone who's died or had a family member who died recently, related to this COVID or been hospitalized. So that is really part of the origin of that. And then also the virus itself, as I was mentioning, affects the central nervous system, and it affects the peripheral nervous system too. But all the organs, and that can actually add to the depression and all the things that you go through. So it's a complex situation. It's important for people to realize that.
It's amazing all this virus can do all that brain fog, and it affects your kidneys. So how does it affect your kidneys, just in general? How does that show up if it affects somebody's kidneys?
Well, I've been a vegan for some time now, a little bit over 3 years. And the reason why I decided to do that was because I started reading all the studies on what we put in our mouth and how that affects the blood vessels.
Oh, yes.
So,
God, yeah.
but by eating a lot of fats, a lot of, hot, meats and things that we really shouldn't be putting in our body, that sort of clogs the arteries. And that leads to heart attacks, strokes, and, kidney failure, right? So this virus, the coronavirus, so it's the SARS, the SARS is really a severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, which causes COVID-19, which is coronavirus disease of 2019. So the disease, COVID-19 is actually the disease, and the virus that causes it is SARS-CoV-2. That virus can attach to the blood vessels in your body, the ACE2 receptors, which are plentiful in the sexual organs. They're also plentiful. So people are worried about vaccinating and getting and fertility. This thing, we don't know what it's doing. If you get sick with the COVID-19 in that area yet, in the sexual reproductive area. But we do know that it attacks the blood vessels in the heart, the lungs, the brain, the nervous system. It also attacks the kidneys. So those blood vessels in the kidneys, we're finding clots even with low platelet counts, we're finding people having clumps of clots in their blood, which is unheard of.
Wow.
It's very, very different from what we normally would see. And we're seeing strokes in both the arteries and the veins in children, in teenagers.
Wow.
So and adults as well. But we're finding that these things are unusual and they're peculiar to the COVID-19 virus. So in order to protect your body from further harm and damage, getting vaccinated puts up a shield. It gives you more of those drones on that starship.
I like that. I like that.
To protect yourself.
All right, listen, I hope everybody, you heard Dr. Arnold. Dr. Arnold, because you've been so generous, I've taken up too much of your time. If you can, let's say after Labor Day, if you can, could you come back? And the next episode, I want you to dedicate, I'll shorten my monologue or skip my monologue. I'm gonna come right into you and leave my military tribute monologue out of that show. So it won't go so long, but I want you to be able to address everything you talked about, just the mental health aspects and how it directly affects the brain, the heart functions, and the kidney functions. Those are the three things you said you want. So if you got the time, let's say after Labor Day, I would love to have you come back and you could just speak to those issues specifically and just kind of go down the list and kind of educate the public. Because I think this information is so important. And like you guys are learning new things every day that this virus can do to the body that you guys didn't know could do to the body 6 months ago or 3 months ago.
Right. And those vaccinations, remember, they began in Africa. We used to use vaccinations all the time, against snake venom. They would, impale their little children with a little piece of metal and snake venom, very small amount, to protect them from dying from snake bites. And they used it for smallpox for generations in Africa before the smallpox outbreak in Boston here. So Onesimus, who was the slave of Cotton Mather got the credit for it, and one of the doctors who he knew got the credit for it, even though Onesimus is the one who brought this here, the slave, right? He protected and stopped tens of thousands of people from getting smallpox in Boston in 1706 when he got here. And that was before another important date called the Boston Tea Party, the American Revolution. We don't know how this country would have even existed if it hadn't been for the intervention of preventing smallpox among the people in Boston.
Thank you for bringing that up. I had a conversation with someone about a week or so ago, and I educated her, and I hate that I couldn't get to you. So for you all Dr. Arnold just told you that basically the whole concept of vaccines originated and it came from Africa as far back as how long? We talking about the first African?
Hundreds of years.
Hundreds of years back.
Maybe 1,000.
So basically, back. The same times we were building the pyramids, is that safe to say that Africans, people in that part of the world, basically came up with the concept of creating a vaccine, like you said, to protect their children from a snake bite. Am I right?
Imhotep, the true father of medicine, was in Egypt, and William Osler, who is now considered to be the white or European father of medicine, actually has a tribute to him in Johns Hopkins, and and he really recognized the fact that many of the historical findings of medicine go back to ancient Egypt and to Africa. So we have got to rewrite this history in our own minds and realize that the technologies and the things that we're relying upon right now actually had an origin in our culture.
And to fast forward in we're talking about the 1700s, it was a former enslaved person who basically taught the system, and you can help me with the wording here, the whole concept vaccines to the slave master, who then in turn, I guess, passed it to someone who was in medicine, which is how the United States was introduced to the concept of vaccine. Now, am I accurate? How far off am I with that assessment?
No, that's absolutely correct.
Okay.
And in here in this country, the American Indians actually taught people who came to the country, the colonizers, how to grow food. Otherwise, they would have died in the winter. They taught them how to survive in the winter, and to make sure that they were able to actually still live.
And the colonizers,
and
the colonizers were so grateful. They expressed that gratitude by killing, moving those Native Americans off their land, putting them on reservations, and giving them blankets with smallpox. I digress. Dr. Damon Arnold, thank you, man. I am always smarter and calmer, but today you got me fired up. I felt like Chuck D listening to the remix of Fight the Power, because I loved that. So if you missed it, go back and look at the beginning. Dr. Arnold just expressed his sentiments about how we need to not take for granted the freedoms that we have here. And it's men and women like Dr. Arnold who served in the military, and it's young men and women, especially like the ones who lost their lives a week ago, who were all 10 out of the 13 were only 20 years old, that paid the ultimate price so we could be free to do what we're doing and play Call of Duty and act like, we're a soldier, and sit here and act like we're Governor Patton, or, that we're Dr. Fauci and no more than these people. So thank you for your time, Dr. Arnold. So I'm looking forward to, I'll reach out to you, check your calendar. I want to bring you back after Labor Day. Very important conversation, just talking about the effects on our mental health, and the effects specifically brain, heart, and kidneys. Three things that COVID-19, you guys have looked into data and seen that it can affect, or sometimes may potentially have long-term effects on those organs, correct?
That's right. Absolutely.
All right.
And getting back to Fight the Power, Radio Raheem had a message.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, yes, he absolutely did. He did. Dr. Arnold, man, listen, you are the best, my brother. Thank you, man. May God continue to bless and cover you and your family. And thank you for blessing us with your knowledge and your passion, man. Thank you so much.
Yes. And there are no such thing as microchips in the vaccine. Get rid of your phone and your credit card.
There's your microchip. All right, that Android or that iPhone.
They already know where you are.
Yes, that's your microchip. So if you're worried about Pfizer or Moderna injecting a microchip, no, you way too late. You would volunteer a microchip and paid $1,000 or $1,200 to be microchipped. So I digress.
Yeah. It was an experiment. It was a study. They just didn't treat those people with syphilis with penicillin. They withheld treatment. So if they withhold a vaccine from you, they put you in the same place as those men.
Right. But now you can get the vaccine and it's free. They're not withholding it from you. They're trying to give it to you for free. We digress. Dr. Arnold, you are simply the best. Thank you so much, my friend. Have a great Labor Day holiday. Looking forward to having you back on the show after Labor Day sometime later next week.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Dr. Damon Arnold, he's the best. I love it. I love it. I got to get out of here. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. As always, God bless each and every one of you. This was very informative. When Dr. Arnold was on, I always try to give him extra time because we learn so much when he comes on the show. So thank you for your time, Dr. Damon Arnold, out of Chicago, Illinois. God bless each and every one of you. And God, most of all, thank you for letting me do the Geno Show. I come to you live Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. in Chicago, 3:30 p.m. on the West Coast. Please share. Well, let me go back. Please subscribe, share, and like. Subscribe, share, and like the Geno Jones channel, the Geno Jones Show. Please, if you'd like to advertise and be a sponsor, or if you're looking for the ultimate pitchman or brand ambassador, because I'm the king of pitchman, leave me a message right here on my channel, or I got a Gmail account, Geno Jones Show. Geno Jones Show, that's how you spell it, at Gmail. All right, I love each and every one of you.
Okay.
Mother, I love you more than life itself. Shout out to Markel Bailey, the official barber and hairstylist of the Geno Jones Show. He's on Instagram, KLB Cutting Up. Alexandria Jones, the official wardrobe consultant and stylist of the Geno Jones Show. She's on Instagram, LEXIE_ line below, Nicole Designs. Lexi Nicole, NICOLE Designs, or Alexandria Jones. Alexandria is ALEXANDRIA Jones. Also, Bruce Gage, wardrobe consultant and stylist. You can search him on Instagram or Facebook, Bruce Gage, Gage. All right, you and me, I'll be live, a new episode live of the Geno Jones Show tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Go back and binge watch all the episodes if you missed my Friday, the weekend review, all last week. The shows were fire, but until Tuesday, next time I come to you live, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Once again, thank you so much for watching. And as always, be blessed.
Oh, you know what, Geno? I have one more shout out. I want to say,
subscribe and tune in to the next episode of the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.